what they can do is they can target something new. They can target other devices in your home. You're hearing about everything being part of the whole Internet of Things. You can have your TV now on the internet. You can have your refrigerator on the internet. You can have all these things on the internet. Well, criminals are realizing that there's other things that are also pretty vulnerable. And one of the biggest things that you have that's a vulnerability is your device that's your access point. Now, an access point, just so we're clear what it is, when you go online, in fact, I'll even talk about it here, let's say you have Wi-Fi in your house. So you have your laptop, you can sit on your couch, and you don't have to have any wires hooked up, so you can just work away. Or maybe you have a mobile device or whatever it is, and you're connecting through your Wi-Fi device. Well, that Wi-Fi device is a device that's sitting in your house somewhere that's connected to allow you to make these connections. The other device you have is just your access gateway. And what this will be is another device that when you first got internet in your house, you had somebody set this up or you set it up yourself, and it's basically known as a router. And this sits on your network in your house and allows you to go from internal through that router out to the internet through your ISP or whatever, and then be online. Well, all of this hardware is sitting around, and it has risks as well, and people sometimes don't realize these risks are there. And their risks come in a bunch of different forms, but one of the biggest one is that when you turn your computer on for the first time in your house, every time you turn it on in the morning or you get up and you turn that computer on, it needs information to be able to be on the network. It needs to have an IP address. It needs to know, what is my IP address? How do I communicate? What's my address that makes me alive on this whole network? Well, your device, whatever it is, whether it's the Wi-Fi device or your router, your access point, something in your house gives your computer that information. It says, here's the information you're asking for, so now you can be part of this world. The other thing your computer wants to know is, what is the DNS server out there? And a DNS server, the best way to describe it is it's basically like directory service. You know when you used to call 411, I think everybody uses the internet now, but in the old days, you'd call 411 and they go, directory assistance, how may I help you? And you go, yeah, I need the number for Domino's. And they'd go, sure, the number is 512, 555, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You'd have this phone number and it'd be great. A DNS server does the exact same thing for the internet. When you type in www.sdccu.com, your computer goes, I don't know what that is. That's just a word to the computer. It means absolutely nothing at all. It has no routing capabilities whatsoever. It can't do anything with that. So what it does is it says, hey, let me ask the DNS server out there. It will tell me what I really want to know. So it'll say, DNS server, what does sdccu.com really mean? And then the DNS server will respond back and say, it means 98.173.156.126, basically like a phone number. So then it goes, oh, okay, I know how to communicate with that. I'll connect out to that now. And then that's how your computer then communicates with whatever it needs to. So that all makes perfect sense. And generally this information gets set up when you first set up your computer. Most of the times your ISP provider will either do it for you, or they give you a little piece of paper when you're first setting up your router and you had to type all the stuff in. And if you mistyped it, then you had to call for support and type it again and finally get it all set up right. And once you have it set up, it becomes a toaster. You never see it again. It's just kind of this forgotten thing. And now magically internet just works and everything's great in your house. The problem is, what would happen if somebody could somehow manipulate that DNS server? So for example, if I could change the 411 information and make it so that every time you call 411 and ask for Domino's, instead of giving out Domino's phone number, it gave out Pizza Hut's phone number instead. So it gives you a phone number, and now you dial the number thinking you're calling Domino's, but instead Pizza Hut answers. You go, well, what the heck? They told me this is supposed to be Domino's phone number. Well, the same kind of concept could happen here. If a criminal could change the DNS server and say, instead of using the DNS server you normally use mine instead. And then therefore, anytime you ask for anything, I'm going to give you something else. I'm going to give you what I want to give you. So for example, you could type in www.google.com. You go through my DNS server though, and I say, I don't like Google anymore. From now on, whenever you type google.com, I'm going to send you to Bing. Instead, I'm going to send you to Microsoft's site. So every time you'll type in, it'll still show Google up there, but Google's not what you're going to get because the IP address that was given back to you is something totally different. And it can be anything. I mean, they can do anything they want. So you go, okay, well, that's bad, but how bad could it get? Like, what's the worst scenario that could happen? Well, now, as I just showed you with Bank of America a minute ago, Bank of America, we were saying, okay, so Bank of America, we typed in, but it didn't go to Bank of America. You thought it did because it showed you a Bank of America picture, but as we're going to show you in a minute, it actually went to another server that I controlled completely, made my own fake Bank of America, and that's where you were putting all the information because I controlled the DNS. So you go, okay, well, this kind of makes a lot of hubble-bubble, kind of confusing, but basically what it comes down to is you have an administration tool. Every router has one. Now maybe you accessed it once in your life or twice in your life or very few times because again, once you set it up, it's rare you're ever going to have to go and mess with it again. But you have it out there. To administer that thing, you generally just log in, type in some login credentials, and then you can go make changes. So this video here is going to show you what it kind of looks like. So I'm going to go to my little router, and the IP address is an internal IP address to hit it, and every one of them has one of these types of addresses. I type it in, it's going to pop up a message telling me that I've typed in my login and password, so I'll type it in, pretty normal stuff, nothing too crazy here. And now I'm able to manage my little D-Link router. It's just a little router that allows me out access to the internet. So what I'm going to is my advanced setup, and under there I see DNS settings. So here's my DNS, and right now my DNS servers are pointing to 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. 8.8.8.8 I happen to know is owned by Google, and so is 8.8.8.4. I trust those DNS servers pretty much because I know Google's a pretty reputable company and they should be giving me real information. So now if I go to target.com, I should see target.com. You would expect that because that's where we typed. You know, there's no reason for us not to expect that. So if we type in something else, like we go back to that Steve Poltz site I showed you a little while ago, and that little Steve Poltz site is actually a malicious site. So we browse to this website, and it looks like everything's fine on this website. We scroll through, there's no problems at all. It's just a normal, everyday concert website. We would trust that site completely. However, now when we go back to target.com, after just browsing that site, first we're going to go look at the router again. Now, a second ago when we looked at that router, it was 8.8.8.8. Remember that. So now we go back and we look at that router, and now the top address changed magically. We didn't do anything to change it ourselves. It just all of a sudden is something different. And it's different because that site that we just went to, that Steve Poltz site, was actually a malicious website that sent hidden commands that we couldn't see. So now when we type in target.com, instead of going to Target, we now go to Walmart. And even though we're still typing Target, even though it still shows Target at the top, we're at Walmart because the DNS server we're now using is a malicious DNS server that apparently likes Walmart more than Target. So no matter what you type there, you can't get in. You're always going to be stuck over at the thing. Now at Steve Poltz, if we look at the actual source code, which I don't expect any of you to be programmers, but I'm going to show you what we're looking for here. And so if you look right here, you're going to see, I'll even zoom in more in just a second, but over here to the right, it says 192.168 1.1. Here's 1.2, here's 1.3, here's 1.4. What this code did on the backside is it said, I'm going to try every address that I think you might have that would be your router's IP address internally that you would use to manage your router. I'm going to try every one of them, and then I'm going to send a very specific command because all of these routers have vulnerabilities. Almost all of them have had vulnerabilities at some point in time. So all this thing has to do is when you hit the website, it's loading the website to you. It's also telling your web browser, hey, by the way, try to connect to this, try to connect to this, try to connect to this, with every possible IP address that it can think of that your router might be. So it could send several hundred of them or several thousand, but in the meantime, you're just seeing what you're expecting to see because it's all happening behind the scenes. So you're actually, unbeknownst to you, hacking your own device. And that's what makes this so ingenious, the way they do these things. So you don't even see it happening, but it's happening right now as it's going on. And what's so frightening about this is it's so hard to detect because, I mean, you're just at a website. I mean, there's nothing there that says, hey, this is a problem, or that's screaming out, you shouldn't do this. It's pretty simple stuff that just looks normal to you.